Welcome to Callosum, a podcast where science meets art. Callosum is a bundle of fibers that connects the left half of the brain with the right. According to conventional neuroscience, the left half of the brain is more logical and mathematical, and the right half is more artistic and creative. Although modern literature challenges this concept, the reason I named it Callosum is because the theme of this podcast is interdisciplinary thinking. I strongly believe that the future lies in taking a fundamental concept from one field and applying it to another, leading to new ideas that transcend the confines of a single discipline. My name is Dr. Suneet Zadav. I'm an assistant professor in anatomy and a musician who's currently pursuing a PhD in cognitive neuroscience, trying to understand how music affects the brain. While reading the latest research on this topic, I was fascinated by how much we do not know yet. And the podcast is my idea of trying to deliver whatever I read to an audience that is excited to learn more about the human brain and body, but in simpler words, so they feel enabled to live a healthier life. Lastly, being part of an independent music community, I would further love to use this podcast to help indie artists perform their upcoming art, in the hope that it reaches a wider audience. Okay, welcome to episode number 2. Prateek, thank you for giving me the guitar and taking it back like a true gentleman. And I've heard that Prateek really knew this song when I was younger, and he was kind of a fan of my music. I think so. Am I correct?
Sure.
Okay, he has to say that it's my podcast. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
When in Rome.
When in Rome, sir.
Cast as the podcasters do.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, that was fantastic, guys. It was really nice. And in all honesty, I really do like this song after having seen it once. And yeah, there he is.
Suneet Zadav on Spotify.
Okay. So time to get back into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
So the next question that we have, it's about the pathway to becoming a surgeon in the UK. And as an addition to that, like Sir had mentioned, a very, very general question, how to crack PLAB.
Okay. So now about the pathway of becoming a surgeon, or the pathway to becoming a surgeon in the UK. That is basically what we have discussed in the start of this podcast, which is cracking the licentiate exam followed by cracking the specialty specific examination and then going in for jobs. So this is something for very prolonged discussion. About cracking the PLAB, that's a fairly broad question. It's like asking someone how to drive. It's not a wrong question, or it's not an embarrassing question, just that the volume of that answer is out of the scope of today's episode.
#damage control.
Well, you've got to do what you've got to do. So either way, in the spirit of #damage control, we will be linking some resources into the whatever it is under the video, where you can click on links. And the resource which I'll be linking here is called as Road to UK, which is a very exhaustive website. It's run by two international medical grads who are now surgeons. One is a surgeon and the other is a psychiatrist in the UK. And they tell you everything from cracking the exams to registering with the GMC to your financial management, medical legal indemnity, professionalism, everything. So it's a good place to start. Apart from that, I think Dr. Suneet will be putting in my contact details at the end of the video. So after reading all of those things, if you have any specific concerns, please do reach out and I'll be happy to help.
Sir, as an extension to this question, people have asked, what can a final year MBBS student or a student in their house surgency do to make the post MBBS journey successful if they want to move abroad?
Okay, so this is actually one of the good questions, because this brings us to a point which I wanted to elicit for quite a long time, and that is called building your portfolio. Now, portfolio again is something which you need to have. It is roughly the whole and sum of what you have done and who you have been throughout your MBBS. So it includes your marks and your papers and everything. Not that the marks are judged competitively against someone else, but they do want to see that you have a good passing grade in all of these. Apart from that, it also includes your extracurriculars, your leadership and management roles, and your publications and quality improvements and audits and things like that. So coming back to the question, what can we do? At a final year MBBS level, starting to work on some kind of publications or QI projects is one of the very good things that you can do, especially if you are attached to a tertiary care center kind of a hospital, because most of these hospitals are the ones which have medical colleges. So the advantage of all of these centers is that data is all over the place, and therefore getting data is not a huge issue as compared to someone, as you said, who could be in their house surgency. And as a house surgeon, you could be attached to a small secondary or a primary level hospital where the amount of data and the accessibility of the said data will be less. So getting together some data for a publication, taking part in extracurriculars, management, team working, and so on and so forth. And most importantly is documentation of all these things together in one collated area. It can be a folder on your laptop, it can be a bunch of written papers which you put in a file, but do it, document it, and preserve it. That is what I would like to add here.
Is there like any extra points for community outreach? Because we have a lot of community medicine postings where people are
Yes, there is actually
to primary health
so
centers.
it is not as much of extra points as it is about things to talk about in your interview. And definitely if you've taken part in some kind of a community outreach or a grassroots level healthcare, for example, I was part of a disaster management team in 2019, so that kind of helped out in my CV as well. So if you are doing these kind of things, make sure you get a sign off from some boss of your institute, maybe your head of department or the superintendent or someone like that, who can sign you off that you've taken part in all these things, and that will add on to your leadership and management experience.
Hey, before I forget, could we also give a shout out to Lift for Upliftment?
Yes, please. Yeah,
That's something that Prateek is a part of, and if we could just take 2 minutes to talk about it.
So
Although
Lift
they're not
for-
official sponsors or anything, but we love to talk about them because they're awesome.
They're a fantastic non-governmental organization. It is run by the students of BJ Medical College, and what they do, long story short, is to provide free coaching for children who are appearing for their 11th and 12th standard exams, your MBBS entrance examinations, for those children who come from underprivileged backgrounds or those who do not have access to commercial coaching classes. And this has been a movement since 2015. It'll be entering its 9th year now, and it's quite an exaggeration to say that I'm part of it. I've just been in the sidelines, if anything, extending my support when I can. And what they do is they try to coach you and give you tests and make sure that you're in a position to attempt the NEET. On an average, they are getting approximately 8 to 10 students into government medical colleges across the length and breadth of Maharashtra. So it's a mark of respect that we have an opportunity to talk about them in our podcast, because they are actually the ones who are driving social change and what I like to call as social entrepreneurship.
That's amazing. So if there's any medical students who are listening right now and they would like to extend their community outreach capabilities, we'll just put on Instagram or some link on the bio also, the bio description, whatever. Just check it out, man. It's a very cool thing to get involved with. That was a bit of a detour. While we're talking about BJ Medical College and Sassoon General Hospital, where Prateek and I met and did the frontline COVID duty.
Oh, yes.
Where you gave me COVID.
Likewise, I can say the same for you.
Oh, yeah,
But
it's
okay,
controversial. We don't know who. It's a chicken and egg kind of a situation. But
or I would say favors have to be returned, but that's fine. So,
no, but Jigyasa is the undergraduate research club of BJ Medical College. Shout out to them as well. They're very cool. You got to check them out. I'm so keen on supporting all these undergraduate research clubs. Like in SMCW, where I teach, Symbiosis Medical College for Women, we have the All India Research Society, also called AIRS, that is headlined by Sakshi. So shout out to Sakshi, who is probably doing Emily, by the way. So I hope we can get in touch with them and do another episode with them. But man, you got to start early. You seriously got to start early. That's the best way to do it, because in my opinion, when you just start in mixing with the environment, looking up to a senior or a professor who's doing these things, it kind of gives you some kind of a motivation and drive to continue doing that. And I think that is the most important thing that anybody who's going to give you a job is going to look for. It's not about achieving perfection or achieving medals. It's about putting yourself out there, because that's the best showcase of drive, showcase of wanting to learn new things. And I mean, the Indian medical graduate or the IMG is defined, one of the things that defines it is lifelong learning. A lot of people know that because they've got that 4 marks, 8 question on AdCom question, and they love what it means to be a doctor. They write it so beautifully and so superfluously, and then
saving face.
Unfortunately, when we get back to the end of it, not a lot of that is being followed, which is an episode in itself, by the way, empathy in healthcare. But sorry for the detour. Let's get back here.
Yep.
So another very popular question is, what fields in medicine have more scope for teaching and research in the future?
Great question.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. Now, I would like to keep it very nice and superficial by saying every field has a scope to teach, which is on a general principle true. Definitely you can, but teaching and research is always it runs faster in fields which have more innovation. So when we think about fields which are being assisted by AI and machine learning, fields which are being assisted by new discoveries. So you have the internal medicine side of things, which are coming up with new drugs, new vaccines, new sort of management algorithms every single day. You have radiology, pathology, and clinical dermatology, which are becoming more and more integrated with AI and machine learning as we speak.
Interesting.
So the reason for saying this is because research will depend on the availability of new data, and the not just the availability of new data, but the capability to analyze it and come to a meaningful conclusion. And that meaningful conclusion has to be a causation and not a correlation. For example, 100% of people who drink water will die. It does not mean that it's just a correlation. It does not mean that water is a poison with 100% mortality. So we don't just need data. We need data in a direction. And that is something which is which you can see. So the answer to your question would be medicine, pediatrics, genetics, all of these are very good branches to conduct research. Of course, it is not that surgical branches do not have research, but it is a different kind of data collection, and you're probably better off being a trainee in that branch to understand the niches where you need to actually go into research.
Am I supposed to feel offended that anatomy was not mentioned here?
Oh, no, not at all. Because the way I see it, just because I talk about the different kinds of flowers on a tree doesn't ignore the fact that the roots are the most important part. So
Real material, bhai. Real material. Very cool. So also, I want to say that I started doing anatomy because I wanted to make music, and my understanding was, it's going to be the same thing again and again, because not a lot in the human body would change, and I could not be farther from the truth, because now there's so much of AI in anatomy. Like, my wife is working on a hip joint right now, and she's basically collecting data from cadavers as well as European populations to understand how we can use the joints, the CT scans of all of these joints, to create what is known as statistical shape modeling. And in statistical shape modeling, eventually we can leverage the power of AI in, helping faster diagnosis and manufacture of prosthetic implants, etc. So that's very interesting in anatomy. I also am a big fan of neuroanatomy, so you can check my neuroanatomy series called Loops. It's on the same channel, and I love neuroanatomy, so that's how I got directed towards neuroscience. So now I'm doing my PhD in neuroscience, trying to understand how music affects the brain. So very cool. Like, anatomy is not bad. It's cool. I'm trying to make it cool. Help me out here. Sorry.
Hashtag damage control.
Hashtag damage control. Yeah.
So, again, an extension of this question. What about a career abroad as a teacher and researcher?
Okay, so again, I think this is pretty much an overlap of what we've said in one of those earlier discussions, where we spoke about clinical teaching fellow and clinical research fellow posts. So this I speak specifically of the UK, because I don't know what these posts are called in other countries with a Royal College run architecture, such as Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. But surely they have some kind of these attachments as well. So these are basically non-training jobs, which are actually towards teaching and some amount of clinical work. So they'll give you a rota which has some amount of clinical work and some amount of teaching of undergraduate students. So that is fairly a doable career option. You always have the chance to go into training later on if you realize that it's not the thing for you. And if you do realize that it is a thing for you, there are always courses related to universities where you can pursue a formal teaching qualification and go into the teaching line as what we call as those tenured professors. So these posts can be
someday.
Well, it's a fantastic place to be, because that's how academics progresses. It's the forefront of the academic progress by having dynamic and sort of progressive professors. One being in the frame right now. So yeah. So I think that's roughly what we spoke about in that question. Yeah.
as we've spoken a lot about pursuing a career in the UK, as you have,
Yeah.
we all know that there is an economic crisis.
Yeah.
And the lifestyle is a little, people are not very sure of their living conditions right now. So is it a good time to join the UK for a post-graduation knowing of the economic crisis? Will it get better?
Well, now, will it get better? I'm really not sure. I'm as bad as I am at maths. I don't think I should be the one answering this question. But that being said, economic crisis is just one of the factors that you should take into account while going to a country. It always makes sense to have some kind of a backup, not in terms of a financial backup. I'm talking about a plan B or a plan C to another country, another system, another maybe a parallel job or a parallel career which you can fall back upon. I personally believe that this should not be the only factor to take into account while pursuing your career, because come what may, if you're taking a job in a sort of a training or a non-training position, which is a salary-based job, then a lot of things are in your hands in terms of financial management and things like that. So, although yes, economic crisis is everywhere with the exception of a few progressive countries in the world, it's not the only factor to take into account. However, if finances are something which are a very delicate question, then yes, I would think about that. Yeah.
Okay. Well said.
Absolutely. How can we increase our chances of getting the specialty of our choice? Like for you, it was orthopedics, and I can say for many, for myself, it's surgery. So how would I be able to increase my chances?
Right. So, in terms of increasing chances, now when you try for a training position in the UK or when you're here in India, it's fairly simple. Mug up all your subjects until you get the one that you want. So that's pretty much how it works. One of my seniors, about 6 or 7 years senior to me, used to say, study XYZ subject so that you don't get XYZ subject. Now I leave it to your imagination which subject I am referring to. Yeah, no.
No, I'm not gonna say.
Exactly, yes.
This is a family podcast, everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody says offensive.
Yeah. We don't offend anyone, and political correctness is the name of the game, but she knows what I'm talking about. So
I don't even have any clue, but fine.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm
It's
a
not
good guy.
anatomy, so.
Yeah, it's not, yeah.
As long as it's not anatomy, I'm cool.
It's not anatomy. It's well, I mean,
Very controversial subject.
very controversial subject.
Let's
So
go
yeah,
ahead. Move,
anyway.
move,
Yeah.
boy.
So,
Vamos.
Exactly. So that being said, that is how the Indian system runs. In the UK, it's about demonstrating and proving your interest and proficiency in that subject. So if you have, say for example, if Shivangi is a surgeon in India, so she has 3 or 4 years of her surgical experience, that will count. If not, if she's worked in a surgical setup as a house officer, as you said, the house surgeoncy, that will count. Relevant publications in the given field will count. Other academic things, such as if you've been a part of an audit, you've been a part of some kind of a research team, if you have presented a paper somewhere, those will count. So what counts is relevant experience and relevant publications. So if you are interested in surgery, maybe GI, colorectal, CNS, if you have a paper based on the finances of hair transplant, it's not going to really help out in surgery and so on and so forth.
And I'd like to officially invite the second sponsor of today's episode, which is a hair transplant. No, I'm just kidding.
I wish they had sponsored us because they can make enough money out of the two of us. So
Prateek just told me 2 hours ago that Turkey is the world capital of hair transplants. That is important information.
Plastic surgeons.
Yes. Yeah.
Very cool.
A lot of
Very
them.
cool. Loving it.
Okay.
As so I had mentioned in the beginning of this episode that I would like to complete my post-graduation over here and then move abroad.
Yeah.
So for me, do you think it is beneficial to complete my post-graduation here? Do I have any benefits? Do I have any cons to my option?
Yeah. So now this is again something on the lines of what we spoke in the start, that your final plan or your plan of post-graduation versus training should depend on what you want to do with your life in general. So if you see yourself coming back to India, it's definitely not a bad idea to sort of do a bit of training here. As we said, there is a very controversial opinion going around that the Indian master's degrees are not accepted abroad. And you'll be quite surprised to know that the British FRCS is not accepted in India. So the question is, what are we doing? So although the degree is not accepted as a specialist qualification, they do take into account your years of experience, and therefore you will probably get a sort of a few points on your training application, or it will work in your favor if you're looking just for a non-training fellowship kind of a thing. It will definitely work in your favor. Of course, again, these are decisions based on what you see yourself doing in the next 10 or 15 years.
So, what is your take on the PLAB versus MRCP or MRCS debate?
Yeah, so that is something which is a fairly heated debate in the times of today, because the debate is very hot, because a lot of post MBBS grads, apart from giving PLAB, are also finishing off their MRCP and MRCS examinations before they apply for a job to the UK. So that is definitely a good option if you want to have a really strong CV. On the other hand, the reason for the debate, or the reason why things are getting hot, is because being completely, I wouldn't say off the record, but since this is a casual conversation, this makes life tough for the IMGs who are already there.
Right.
If I am already there and I have not completed my MRCS, and there are 600 people in India who have completed their MRCS, it makes it proportionately more difficult to get a job. And that is why it's called as a debate or an altercation, when it really isn't. It's an extra exam. You can give it after your MBBS. Would I recommend giving it? Absolutely. Can you give it? As long as you study well and you put aside the funds for it, nothing wrong with that. Does it improve your chances to get a job? Yes, definitely it does.
I have been working as an actor. They're known as surrogates in these MRCS exams.
Yes.
I mean, I always wanted to be an actor, so I thought, okay, this is a cool thing. And then because it's a British exam, I get to practice my British accent a little until somebody says, "There's no need for that. Just stick to normal English like you guys speak." I'm like, yeah, okay. So, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Some extra cash by the
Yes.
side.
Yes. It's good stuff.
It's fun, man. I mean, I love how much they emphasize on empathy. It's such an important skill that we need to learn. Like I said, there's going to be a completely different episode on that. I did some research recently, and we are seeing the decline in empathy as you go from first year to final year, as are students in the Middle East as well as the US and UK. So my findings are aligning with some other findings. So more on that soon.
So, another very pertinent question
Yeah.
is, when must one start preparing for their USMLE or PLAB,
Okay.
along with their medical education in India?
Right. So yeah, this is again something which is being asked quite often, and I believe this question has been asked about the NEET PG as well. So much so that I saw a meme on the internet about there's a question that said that, you know, I'm just a zygote right now, but I have not finished 2 revisions of R.D. Sharma. Is there a point being born? So yeah, I mean,
Attack.
yeah, it was the thing is about these exams. These exams have a theoretical component and I would say I wouldn't say psychological, but it's more of a concept-based component. So the earlier you are in your MBBS, it makes sense to start the conceptual stuff first. When you have theoretical things such as mugging up pathways and memorizing things, these are better done closer to the exam, because these things are likely to be volatile. So if you do them in your first MBBS, you will forget them by the time you're in your final MBBS. But if someone asks you the electrophysiology of the cardiac cycle, if you read it properly in your second MBBS, then you will go to your phase 3 and you'll start reading ECGs, and then everything starts to make sense, and you realize that there's an underlying order beneath all the chaos. Then those concepts become stronger with time. So I would say start conceptual things as soon as the concept is a part of your syllabus.
Absolutely.
And start your theoretical or your rote learning related things closer to the exam, because there's no point in wasting energy on things which are going to evaporate out of your head in a year or two. So
interesting.
that being said, nobody can put in a single sort of a milestone beyond which everyone should start. So because everybody is different. Someone can study for 2 months and crack an exam. Someone can study for a year and a half and still not be in the position they want to be.
So to summarize, you would be the best decision maker based on your understanding of yourself, your learning
Absolutely.
process,
Absolutely.
your learning style,
Yes.
your dedication, your discipline. So it's kind of variable.
It's absolutely
Right.
variable. Yes.
I mean, I don't know if that answers the question, but I hope we at least gave you a little bit
Yeah.
more perspective on it, you know?
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah.
So you've traveled quite extensively, so you would know how, in general, the cost of living looks like in different parts of the world.
Right.
So a lot of people have also asked the feasibility for a medical student as a trainee to live in a country abroad. What country would you suggest in terms of cost of living, the most budget-friendly country?
Okay. So
Damn.
yeah. So budget-friendly countries now. The thing is, budget-friendly is again now you'll think I'm going into a very diplomatic, safe playing kind of a zone, and this is the last place to be diplomatic and safe playing. But budget-friendly has it in its own terminology. That's budget, and you're the one who decides the budget. So I mean, if the budget will depend on what kind of house I want to live in, what kind of car I want to drive, and what kind of everything, what kind of food I want to eat, so on and so forth. But that being said, what I can say is that for if with some good financial management, some amount of personal discipline, it is fairly doable to go to the UK, to go to Europe, to a certain extent to go to the US as well. Now, budget and feasibility again depends on the part of the country you're living in, the kind of expenses you have, the kind of house that you're living in, so on and so forth. But definitely budget management and financial planning, maybe we could have another discussion on this at some point.
Sure.
But that is absolutely paramount. And once we say that it is paramount, it is difficult but not impossible, and definitely very much doable. It's absolutely doable. So although I can't give you like numbers and ranking lists as far as the most budget friendly countries, I mean we can, but the budget friendly countries are not the ones that you'd go to for education. They're the ones who you'd go to for say vacationing or honeymooning. So it's not something we can really put into a line. But financial management, personal independence, being able to do most of your stuff for yourself and not relying on a whole lot of the paid delivery services and things like that. Things which eat up your money in India will eat up your money abroad.
Yeah.
It's a similar financial situation. And I can go ahead and reassure you that it's very much doable, and you can actually think of living, earning and saving over there without breaking the bank, or to a certain extent even saving back home in India.
That's
as
amazing.
well. Yeah.
So it's also a nice way to put yourself in a situation where you really understand what it means to live minimally with meager resources, because that's a great life skill to have. It's going to be incredible for you to just develop your character and to develop your discipline. And I think it's great for cognition as well. If you kind of just have like, you know that you have only 2 meals in a day, and that kind of ends up making you an intermittent faster. Or if you know that I can only step out once in a week because that's the only funds I have, then you'll choose your place wisely instead of being all over the place. And I think these things really, really build character. So I personally like really look at that as an opportunity to grow instead of as an opportunity to stay, you know, hindered or whatever. Yeah.
So this brings us to probably one of the last questions for this podcast, for this particular episode of the podcast.
Yeah, I got caught. I was like, oh, that's it?
Yeah,
No.
I could
That's
see him
it?
stressing out over
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I got to stop this? It was that bad?
Apologies.
Totally worth stressing it out once in a while.
Sure, man. Whatever.
Okay.
So is pursuing PG in India becoming more and more difficult with increasing competition? And how does one cope with that kind of competition?
Yeah. So this is something which can be answered directly using absolute numbers. When I gave my NEET entrance examination, there were 150,000. That's 150,000 people who appeared. When Shivangi gave her exam, there were 16 lakhs, which means from the time I joined MBBS to the time she joined MBBS, the number of people who want or try to be doctors has increased by 10 times.
Wow.
Now.
25.
Yeah,
this year.
it's 25 this year.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's not even linear progression anymore, it's exponential progression. Now, thinking of that, adding to this the fact that the government is pushing in a lot of new medical colleges. There are a lot of private MUHS, or I mean the university affiliated or deemed universities as well, and the overall number of undergraduate medical colleges is increasing without a proportionate increase in the number of postgraduate seats, and therefore the answer is yes, absolutely, it is becoming much more competitive. Seats are being fought after, and the selection ratios are going through the roof. I had a sort of a conversation with someone who was pursuing their training in another country, and they said that the selection ratio is really tough. It's approximately 1:15, 1:5, and I was like, oh, that's cute, because radiology and orthopedics and medicine selection ratio in India is roughly 1:1,500.
Wow.
So I didn't give them the numbers, but it would have been a fun reaction to watch. So that being said, yes, it is becoming much more competitive. How do you cope with it? Well, I mean, on one hand, it sort of makes you think about what else you can do in life. This is a good opportunity to think about what else you can do, because this gives you a thought process of sort of having your options open. There are a lot of good careers apart from medicine. I'm not saying medicine is not a good career. Definitely it is. And as I said earlier, I stand by what I said, that this is one of the few branches where the world is still your oyster, even after 4 years of an intensive undergraduate course. But that being said, people also consider their options. Those who are giving, say, 1 or 2 repeat attempts, they get an idea. They understand how to introspect and reflect on what they where they are going wrong. And finally, I would say, in the end, you do end up where you are destined to end up after taking a couple of turns here and there.
Right.
So
interesting thing. I would like to ask you: is it necessary to, finish your internship and right away get to the PG bandwagon, postgraduate bandwagon, or is it okay to just take a break, take a 6-month hiatus, travel a little, maybe do some community outreach in the health sector, learn a little more about life and find your calling? Or is that a very #wanderlust kind of an attitude to have?
Well, I would say yes and no, because again, it depends on what you want in life. If you're fixed on what you want in life, then the best way is to get onto that PG.
Yeah.
And of course, if PG is what you want in life, then it's the best to get on with it. If you're unsure, as many people are, we circulated at Google form, and I had put in the first question, which said, on a scale of 0 to 10, how sure or unsure are you about what you want to do? And a whole majority of people was right in the middle, where they're not only are they not sure, they're not sure if they're sure or they're unsure. So
crazy.
It's kind
Getting
of
very meta now.
It's getting very meta. But in such a situation, there is nothing wrong with taking a break and finding yourself. You may find that your actual calling is something which you would not have thought about if you had gone onto the rote learning bandwagon. And there's nothing wrong with that, because in the end, you have to be happy with what you're doing, and you have to sort of I would say finding your passion or finding your calling is a very Hollywood sort of concept to make. But in the end, what lets you sleep at night with a smile on your face is what you should be looking for. If you're not sure about it, take your time and find it, and then get on with it. That's all I can say.
And honestly, even if you end up doing what you love, I love the classroom. That's my most favorite place. Like, music is the second best thing that I love, but the first most important thing for me is going in a live classroom and just teaching. And I love it, but that doesn't mean it does not come with its frustrations. There are so many things to learn after every new lecture. It's literally like a performance. So there are disappointments even if you end up doing something that you really like. And it's cool. Like, the whole point is this culture where you're constantly just chasing happiness and fulfillment. Maybe it's okay to be disappointed, and it's okay to have a bad day, and just accept that as a part of life and just feel it as a healthy negative feeling and move on with it. So technically, I would definitely advise that as well.
Absolutely.
Right. And another thing that I wanted to ask was like a common question that's going to be the recurrent motive in every episode, end of every episode. So if you guys are done with this, I wanted to ask you these questions. Are you guys ready?
Are we?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Absolutely.
So the first question is, again, it's the same question, but we'll start with Shivangi and end with you. So tell me one thing that the modern medical students have, okay, that makes them cool or that makes them luckier. And at the same time, tell me one thing that the modern medical student has that makes them uncool or unlucky as compared to our generation. Remember, we were in med school 15 years ago.
Roughly,
Yeah, roughly 15 years ago. So let me know.
I would say, as we had spoken before, it's the competition that is both the positive and the negative, I'd say. Because with the competition, there comes a motivation. So, albeit it's unhealthy, which also happens to be the,
Worst thing, yeah.
the bad thing over here. I feel like when you have that kind of competition, as it was the case when we gave our undergrad entrance exam, you have that drive to secure a seat,
Right.
to be able to, not financially burden your parents anymore.
Right.
You do have to have that drive to get a government seat. So for that, you need to study. And willingly or unwillingly, that builds a knowledge enough for you to become a good clinician.
Cool. I like that perspective.
But at the same time, it's also very unhealthy because
Yeah.
people fall into that rut.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
people become a little delusional that this is what they want in life. Maybe this
Yeah.
is not their calling, and they realize that much later after like 4-5 attempts of NEET PG. So that, I guess, would be the cons.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
So, I mean, it felt like it was very pertinent to whatever was discussed in this
That's an
episode.
excellent perspective, actually.
Yeah.
So-
What do you think?
2 words.
Take the microphone and then say the
Not
two
2
words.
words, actually. I would say 3 words, 2 phrases: social media and internet. Again, a very.
That's another episode.
Yeah,
again.
that's an episode altogether. But long story short, he and I come from the generation where Facebook was cool. I mean, you could go to a party and put up 200 photos of that party in one album with the cringiest possible name. If you read the name of that album.
LYF? For life?
No, it is MAHLYF for Mala.
Mala.
Yeah,
All right.
you see my captions and you won't speak to me again. So yeah, exactly. So that's kind of a perspective. So the pro and con of it is that the pro of having social media, it's what's cool for these kids is something that we can do something like this. So we can sit across a table and we are 3 people with an entire wealth of experience in different kinds of settings. We can all talk about it, and someone somewhere in my social circle, somewhere in north of India or somewhere in the far south can sit and listen to it, and they can gain perspective. On the other hand, the same people can sit and listen to a TikTok reel which tells them that essential amino acids cure cancer. It's a double-edged sword because we have information without governance, and that's the pro and the con. So the pro is information, and without governance is the con. So we're getting there, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, like I also personally feel that social media, we were lucky that we did not have that kind of a distraction back in the time. But right now, the kind of people that I'm following, I keep on getting these reminders, these daily philosophy posts, for example, or just these anatomy 3D app posts. And that's such a nice way to constantly stay in the loop and keep yourself, continue this whole beyond the classroom learning thing, right? So it's pros and cons. You just got to be very careful how to use it. But that's such a difficult thing, right? Because if you choose to be on social media, you can't, it's not that easy to filter out only the pertinent information. You are going to be, so that's something that even I'm struggling with, honestly. I don't know how I'm going to be dealing with that. But right now, there's just too much information out there. TMI, which is also the name of the monthly newsletter of the podcast, by the way, but more on that in the first episode. This is episode 0, in case you just logged in. So that was amazing. And the last question, the concluding question is, if not a medical student or eventually a doctor, what else would you be, according to you?
I have a very boring answer to this.
Go for it.
So
More boring than a medical student, I can't wait.
No, because it's as spicy as flour. So the thing is, I have been very clear about what I wanted to do in life from a very young age. My parents were very keen on me becoming an IAS officer. So maybe if I hadn't grown a spine and told them that no, I can't, that's not my thing.
Right.
Maybe I would have ended up there not by choice, but
Okay.
SAE. I would have just
You would have
ended
been
up
a very unhappy IAS officer, and everybody underneath you
Oh, no.
would just be unhappy. That's how the plague spreads, right? You get one person who does not like what he does, but he ends up taking a position which is of power. That's how power is misused, right? Because an unhappy person in power just basically kind of projects all of that unhappiness into every little person in the pyramid below him, right? So I'm very happy that you did not become an
But
officer,
I
think.
feel like I would give a lot of props to my parents. They were very supportive
Right.
of the fact that I wanted to pursue medicine.
Very
And
cool.
I was very clear about it. I think somewhere in middle school, I figured that that's what I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do. And again, I'm very clear about what I want to do. I took a drop year for my
Very
entrance
cool.
exam and everything. Very supportive, and I'm glad.
We're
Shout
glad
out
as
to
well.
them.
We're very happy to have a student like you
Absolutely.
who's
Thank you.
kind of setting a milestone for people that they can be med students as well as perform and continue to sing and be on podcasts on which they are forced to come and sing.
No, absolutely
Because
not.
he's my teacher, how can I say no?
No. I really enjoy being here.
I'm glad.
It's great having a real life example of
Yeah,
someone. It's great having a real life example of someone who can multitask and do all
Yeah,
these things.
yeah,
Coming from a guy
yeah.
who cannot. I mean, I cannot multitask. I have two left brains. I can't sing or dance or. I mean, I can, but it's just not
If
something
you have
want
two
to
left
watch.
brains, you don't have a colosseum. What are you doing on this episode, bro?
Well, that's why I'm
Hey,
here
don't get me
because.
started, huh?
Well, I mean, I don't have a colosseum, so I'm here on the show to get the colosseum. Anyway, so yeah, but it's really nice to have someone who's actually doing it all, because that's what I feel is the point of this, is to inspire rather than
Cool.
educate, because educate is just something that's going to happen any which way. Inspire is what you're going to do. So yeah.
Very cool, man. What would you be?
Uh,
Don't just flip the question
Oh
around.
no, I'm not flipping the question. I had some time to think about
Oh,
this because
okay.
I mean, I'm a classical example of all work and no play. But
Okay.
what would I be? Possibly something on the lines of human resources or marketing, which
Oh.
involves networking. Just because I like to talk
Yeah.
to people and make friends
Yeah, he's
and
damn good with that.
speak to people in general, understand what's going on. Or if social media had come in 10 years earlier, possibly something like a travel vlogger or something.
Yeah, like
that.
a car enthusiast. You should see his. Check him out on Instagram, and he loves cars. So I love when he's talking
possibly
about
something
cars. Yeah.
getting cars and social
Also, maybe an
media together.
antique book collector. Most he goes
Oh,
into
yeah,
these
correct.
random museums in Denmark and whatever, and you got me a book.
Not two left brains.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
and he
mean-
picks up these really old, like the first ever surgery book on hip surgeries that was written in the 1920s, and he'll make a post and beautifully write a nice post, which is not Chat GPT, because you can immediately make out when a post is
Yeah,
written
no, I
by
don't
Chat
use
GPT.
ChatGPT.
He
Yeah.
does not use that. I mean, check his things out, man. Like I love you for that little old-fashioned stuff that you have. Like it's pretty
Thanks.
cool, man. Like I really appreciate both of you for coming here, for your time, for sitting here with beads of perspiration
Yeah.
flowing through your foreheads as we
Yes.
struggled with aircon or air conditioning and all of that. But it's a good way to get started. I was super nervous and super excited at the same time. A couple of things kind of went wrong. We've got a grid on the mic, the light fell off. Somebody upstairs was, I hope they were not doing what I think they were doing, but something similar with like the cylinder rolling
They were
off and
just
stuff
lifting
like-
weights. It's
They
okay.
were just lifting weights, okay. So all of that. So let's see how this pans out, and I hope that if it's not premium quality, I still hope that the conversation was valuable enough for you to bear the imperfections and the sonic problems that we have faced and the light problems as well. So thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate this. Here's to Kelosm Science Meets Art. And before I end, I'm just going to play a song. I don't know if it'll be on the episode, but it just might. So I'm
Okay.
going to sing a song, and you guys can stay here if you want as I serenade you.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is a song that I wrote when I just got done with my MD exams. I did my MD in anatomy. Technically, I wrote it after I was done with my last practical, which was pretty, oh, sorry about the sounds. The last practical, which was pretty harrowing because the MD practicals are pretty bad. It's called Goodbye Worry, and it's about saying goodbye to your worries. And I think Shiva knows the song, so it would be really nice if you could also like sing along, harmonize, do whatever. Well, I know I've done some stupid things, and I guess I've had some wicked flings in my day. And I've had my share of foolish stories, not all of them ended in glory, no way. And there have been times I've crossed the line, but it did not seem so juvenile back then. And I still believe in fairy tales, and I'm waiting for my sunny days, but today's not the day, so say we don't care. And why don't we forgive ourselves and sing goodbye? Worry, 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 goodbye. Worry, 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 goodbye. Worry, 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 I'll see you some other day, goodbye. Worry, 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 keep singing that. Worry, 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 keep singing that.
Worry, 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 worry.
I'll see you some other day, goodbye. Keep singing worry, worry, worry. It's cool. I'm gonna sing the bridge on top of that.
Worry, 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 worry.
Oh, I just can't stop singing this song, so I want all of you join along, cause you know this is my favorite song and I sing it every day. Well, I just can't stop singing this song, so I want all of you join along, cause you know this is my favorite song and I'll sing it every day. And we'll sing it every day, and they should sing it every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. The song is called Goodbye Worry. You can check it out on Spotify. I'm gonna link my website and all my music below. Thank you so much for being a part of this wonderful episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Prateek. Thank you, Shivangi. Woo! If you like what you hear, please support the Callosm team by liking, sharing, following, and or subscribing to Callosm. That's CALLOSM on Instagram and YouTube. You can also check out all episodes on sunitzadav.com/Callosm. That's SUNITZADAV.com/CALLOSM. Thank you so much for your time and happy listening.